Hey everybody, welcome back. And right as I hit publish on Tidbits last night, we got word that Chase has announced another lounge. This time it'll be at Los Angeles International Airport at the Tom Bradley International Terminal. All the terminals are airside at LAX, so depending on how quickly you can move around, you should be able to experience the Chase Lounge whether you're leaving from Tom Bradley or one of the other terminals. But I understand it might be a bit of a tight squeeze. I've never been to LAX. I can't tell you about the layout, but folks who were commenting did mention that it might be a little bit rough. It is going to be 9,200 square feet. No word yet on when it will open. But Chase has announced its 10th lounge, which is nice to an extent. It would be nicer if Chase could actually open the other lounges that they promised. Las Vegas still hasn't opened. Philadelphia still hasn't opened. Phoenix still hasn't opened. And there's at least one more that I am blanking on that still hasn't opened. Now, they have the current lounges that they have open are, of course, Hong Kong, Boston, LaGuardia, JFK, and Dulles. JFK and Dulles are combinations with Etihad and the Club, which was a pleasant surprise. They're relatively small lounges compared to some of the others. The LaGuardia lounge is, of course, 21,000 square feet and 2 floors. Not every lounge is going to be that large. The Boston lounge is actually also relatively large, but the Etihad lounges at at JFK and Dulles are on the smaller side, and this LAX lounge will also be it'll be under 10,000 square feet. So space may be a concern, but Chase is continuing to push forward with their determination to grow out their lounge network. And that's actually really, really helpful for folks with the Chase Sapphire Reserve and folks who may consider Chase and the Chase Sapphire Reserve. So that's all great. Now, again, I would like to see them open Las Vegas, San Diego, Philadelphia, and Phoenix relatively quickly, because those have all been announced. Those are all in at least varying stages of being finished, and it's June. Like, when I made the joke on an earlier Tidbits this week about Capital One announcing JFK as their next lounge, and I said, Chase is just going to follow this up by opening 4 lounges. I wasn't expecting them to announce another lounge, but it's all welcome, right? So with that, Chase will have 10 when they finally open, as long as they're not opening before like 2026, right? So I wanted to kind of take some time, highlight that, but then do a little bit of a pivot and just kind of like look at what's a sort of checklist for the rest of the year for Chase looks like. I talk a lot about Chase and Wells Fargo because they are the 2 biggest spend issuers that I have. I don't talk about Citi because I don't necessarily love the ecosystem. I can talk about why in another video. I don't talk about American Express because while I have one American Express card, I'm not deeply integrated with any of the other cards. I don't have the American Express Green, which is a great card, would be a great card for me, but I have the Wells Fargo Autograph, which covers a lot of what the Green does, just without a Lounge Buddy credit or a Clear credit. I have the American Express Gold. I have more dining cards than I can shake a fist at. And grocery is sort of important, but I have to play the credit game, and I don't necessarily want to play the credit game. I don't have the American Express Platinum because I don't spend that much money. And while it would make my travel even more luxurious, I don't travel enough to warrant that annual fee. Some might even argue I don't travel enough for the Sapphire Reserve, but don't worry about me. So I kind of wanted to go through a bit of a checklist just because Chase seems to have a lot of unfinished business at the moment. So when you think about Chase and the Chase Sapphire Reserve in specific, they've got a couple loose ends that really should get tied up sooner rather than later. The 2 biggest are the DoorDash and Lyft agreements, and hopefully getting those extended. Right now, the DoorDash agreement includes a year of Dash Pass on the Chase Sapphire Reserve and certain discounts on Dash Pass, whether it's 6 months or 3 months, depending on the level of card. So the Sapphire Preferred has, I think, 6 months. The Freedom cards have 3 months. And getting that relationship extended should be relatively easy, since last year Chase launched the DoorDash MasterCard. So they have a strong relationship. I don't see why they wouldn't extend that relationship. It would also behoove Chase to look into upping the credit keeping the credit rolling over quarterly, but upping the credit from $5 a month to $10 a month. I think a $120 overall credit on DoorDash could be useful. Then you've got Instacart, where the Instacart credit is ending in July. I haven't even activated it, but it is super useful. And Chase issues the Instacart credit card. So it would make sense that Chase should be extending that relationship as well, and keeping that credit and improving that credit as well, not only for their Sapphire Reserve holders, but also potentially their Sapphire Preferred holders, and maybe folks who have the Freedom cards as well, but to a much lesser extent. Because if you need those credits, get a card where those credits are offsetting something. And if you really need those credits, you're going to have to pay for access to those credits anyway. So I say that to say Instacart and DoorDash should be on the list of things that Chase gets handled sooner rather than later. Also on that list would be Lyft. The Lyft Pink All Access partnership that they have, where you get 2 years free of Lyft Pink and a third year discounted, is secretly one of their better benefits on the Sapphire Reserve if you live in an urban area. If you live in New York City, or you live in an area in the immediate suburbs of a large city. So any large city that is serviced by Lyft prices are a little out of control, but I don't think Chase has anything to do with that. I think that's just Lyft, because I was looking at prices in New York City, but they also have that wild card in New York City of being able to access city bikes. And those would probably be much cheaper than getting a $100 ride from City Hall to Grand Central. That is a real thing, too. Anyway, getting the Lyft partnership extended should also be on Chase's list of things to do. That should also include the 5X category for the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the 10 times category for the Chase Sapphire Reserve, especially if you're able to link it with Bilt. And I don't know why you wouldn't link it with Bilt, but if you don't like Bilt, you've got Hilton as an option. You've got a couple of others where you can stack your Lyft earnings to not just be the 10 times on your Sapphire Reserve or the 5 times on your Sapphire Preferred. You get 2 times Bilt points. You can get 3 times Hilton points. There's at least one more that I'm blanking on that I don't really care. But those are the 2 big ones that I would use, and I use the Bilt. So every time I purchase a Lyft, I'm getting Bilt points, I'm getting Bilt spend, and I'm getting 10 times points on my Sapphire Reserve. Extending that relationship. Now, I don't know if that would need to be restructured, if you could do like the first year of Lyft Pink All Access free and then an ongoing 50% discount, or even something like you could do the first 2 years and then something. I don't know the exact way to make that work, but extending out those points would be awesome. Even scaling back those points a little bit. I could settle for 7 times points on the Sapphire Reserve and still get my 2 times Bilt points. I can settle. I don't want that. I want my 10 times points. I know Call Me Lonnie would want his 10 times points, right? Like, don't cut that. But if it means a longer discount on recouping your annual fee, maybe that's a trade-off. I would just much rather, year 1 free and every year after a 50% discount. But that's just me. So that is another thing that Chase has to kind of tie up loose ends with the Sapphire Reserve, and then kind of look at some other ways to make the Sapphire Reserve more competitive. I still think that adding hotel status to the Sapphire Reserve would be huge. I think if any sort of annual fee increase is coming to the Sapphire Reserve, it should also include maybe not unlimited access, but some sort of access to the United Club program. Get some access to United Clubs there, because Newark is a lounge desert and O'Hare is a credit card lounge desert. Now, Newark is getting a Centurion lounge at Terminal A at some point, sooner than later, but they don't have a Capital One lounge. They don't have a Chase lounge. And Chase still needs to expand out their lounge network. Now, I did have an idea that I threw out on the Venture Capital Discord last night that I'm going to kind of extend here. Chase partners with the club to build out these lounges, whether they're taking over Etihad's lounges in JFK and Dulles, or they're building their own lounges elsewhere. They partner with the club. Wouldn't it just make more sense for Chase to just straight up buy out the club and just brand all the club lounges as Chase Sapphire lounges? Immediately, you would go from having 10 10 confirmed lounges with 5 on the way. LAX, San Diego, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Las Vegas. Yeah, 5. And then extend out and buy out the club, which has locations in Buffalo, BWI, not necessarily the best lounges, but their lounges, Charlotte, Charleston, New Orleans, Fort Lauderdale, Jacksonville. I'm sure they would just shut the Jacksonville down for a couple of months and try to buy whatever retail space is next to it. I don't know what's next to it, but according to Joe Barretto, that thing is a hole in the wall. So, like, break down the wall, make it bigger. You can get at least 15 lounges in the United States that you could just rebrand as Chase the Club Sapphire Lounge across the United States. And then there's 3 in London. So you'd be expanding your international footprint as well. And now you're taking on American Express in a more competitive way because you've got smaller airports and larger airports all taken care of. American Express has their Centurion lounges in a lot of large airports, and they've got escape lounges in smaller airports and a few escape lounges in Great Britain and Australia. They're opening one in Brisbane, I think. But suffice it to say, Chase should purchase the club to get an even larger lounge footprint. Now, this would take away from Priority Pass partners or what, I don't care. Chase should buy the lounge, but Chase should buy the club because it just makes the most sense. You're partnering with them on all of these lounges. The worst thing that could possibly happen to Chase would be either American Express decides we're going to stop this and just buy the club. American Express could do it. Capital One could come to their senses, and after this Discover deal either goes through or dies, I don't know which it will be, Capital One could buy out the club from underneath Chase and then kick Chase out of all of its lounges. That would be bad. Or the new kids on the block, Wells Fargo, could do the same thing. If Wells Fargo is serious about getting into travel, which given how strong the Autograph Journey is as a card and the protections that you get on the Autograph Journey, I think they're serious because they're not done yet. So, yeah, prevent defense here. Buy the club, expand your lounge access even further, and that puts Capital One back on their back heel because, again, they're at 4 lounges, and you would be at, 20 open lounges with 5 more on the way? I don't know. It's just a thought. These are just some things I would like to see Chase do with regard to the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Give me some hotel status, Marriott Gold, IHG Gold, at least Hyatt Discoverist, and let's get some clarity on those credit partnerships, and let's announce some new credit partnerships as well. I think the earnings on the card on the Sapphire Reserve are okay. They're good for what they are. It's a better earning premier travel credit card than the others, but it lacks in those credits that kind of give you that extreme value. Hotel status will help. More passes into the United Club Lounge passing into the United Club Lounge will help. More lounges will help, but they gotta find some other ways to find some additional credits, and extending those DoorDash credits, making those bigger, extending those Instacart credits, making those bigger, and having a more permanent relationship with Lyft will all go a long way. But that's going to do it for me for now. If you like what I do, hit the like and subscribe button down below. Check out the pinned comments. I thank you in advance if there are ways that you find to support me in those. If you want to drop me a super thanks, that's down there as well. I would prefer some of the links in the pinned comment, but you do you. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Talk to you guys soon. Bye for now.